The monarch sat on his throne, observing the table as it displayed the happenings of his multi-galactic kingdom's latest war unfold in real time. He leaned back into the comfortable back padding and smiled with childlike glee. They were approaching his favorite moment. Thousands of similar battles had been fought in his time, and they had all ended with the same result. Not victory, not surrender. Victory was irrelevant. They had already lost by the time this phase of his strategy began. Surrender was pointless. The enemy could surrender, or they could suffer defeat. It held no importance to his personal favorite moment. Soon. He zoomed in on the star system, all the way to the front lines on the only populated planet. It was a recent colony. The relatively newly ascended ape descendants had named it Dune for some irrelevant reason. Probably a popular culture reference that would be lost on the monarch of a kingdom that spanned 3 galaxies. He grudgingly had to admit that the monkey people, with their 5-digit manipulators and their weirdly scavenger predator-inspired physique, were exceedingly good at adapting to the tactics of the invading fleets. They should have suffered devastating losses from day one of the invasion all the way up to the final battle at their cradle world, where the final blow to their will would be dealt, and they would succumb to eternal servitude of the kingdom, not by vote or reason, simply because there was no reason to fight the invaders anymore. Alterations had been made necessary for this invasion, however, since the apes, or humans, had been so skilled at avoiding having their forces annihilated at every encounter, so now, on the 3rd year of the invasion, this Dune would be the 10th colony for the humans to lose. This would be where their spirit would break, where his troops would ride the human tenacity like an ugly concubine. It was time. He found the human commander and zoomed in on the female. She wore a small hammer as a pendant around her neck. The monarch giggled audibly. This was going to be perfect. He zoomed out to watch as the skies over the battlefield split, and a wagon pulled by 2 goats broke through the clouds, the driver swinging a short-handled battle hammer over his head, with lightning arcing from the hammer's oversized head. The human commander's face lit up, first in disbelief, then in realization, and then, finally in horror, as the human god of thunder, the deity whose idol she wore around her neck, plowed through the human ranks, spreading death, armor and bodies left and right, as he never stopped swinging that hammer. Behind him, another of humanity's gods fielded against his former supporters, as his bronze armor reflected in the light of the dawning star. His sandals were covered in blood and dirt, as his oversized round shield and a spear 3 times his own height simultaneously beheaded whoever was within range and kept the ones with just a small measure of survival instinct at bay. But that look, the one on the commander's face, the look when she realized, as all of the stupid apes would, that their gods had forsaken them, turned to their enemy and battled against them. This was the single most amusing thing to the monarch. For that look, he would launch 1,000 fleets. Because of that look, he had raised 1,000 fleets, in anticipation of that single look. He had turned hundreds of thousands of gods against the peoples that followed them. He never ceased to be amazed at how easy it truly was. It had been 100 lifetimes. He no longer counted time in anything shorter than that. Maybe even 200 lifetimes, since the scientists of his father's kingdom had come to one simple conclusion. Science and theology were not mutually exclusive. They were, in fact, codependents. The laws of physics were real, like all other laws. They were formulated and written down by someone before they became laws. Those someone were the gods. Each sentient species had their own gods. Some had thousands, others had one. But they all followed the same path. In the early stage of civilization, that which could not be explained otherwise would be attested to the gods. Drought, gods. Fertility, gods. Disease, gods. Fortune, good, bad, or financial, gods. Then, as every civilization ventured into the age of enlightenment and science, their gods would write the laws that made each occurrence tangible and logical for their people to discover. None, not even his own species, had avoided the seemingly inevitable outcome. As scientific knowledge grew, the faith in the gods fell, and with it, the devotion and the power the gods gained from prayers, belief, and dedication. His father had discovered that their gods still existed, weakened and malleable, so he had offered them a deal. Teach me how to summon any god, and how to give my son eternal life. In return, I will rebuild your temples and your followings and multiply their numbers beyond what you have ever had. The gods, starved and desperate, had agreed. In time he had discovered other species, other sentients, with their own gods, forgotten and starving. He had his scholars study their history, learning the name and domain of every god these aliens had forgotten, and then he had his people breed. Procreation became the maker of nobility. Pedigree was irrelevant, only numbers mattered. In order to turn a god from its own people, he had to make an unrefusable offer. The total population of humanity is 21 billion people, he had said to Hades. Divide that by the literal hundreds of colleagues you have, and there is barely 100 million humans per god. I can guarantee you 5 billion dedicated followers with an average growth of 5% per lifetime. He took the deal, they all did. It is a matter of numerals. This time, as every time before this, the numbers won. He didn't need 1 billion soldiers, he had 300 gods. It had become a principle for him to only use a species' own gods against them. A personal message of spite. It was also a very effective way of rallying the gods against their old followers. Show no mercy to those who would abandon you. Let your wrath reign unhindered. The shock of betrayal was, for the most part, widely effective, breaking the spirits of the defenders. This time, the pesky monkeys would break and surrender. He watched as the carnage on the battlefield continued, watched as the humans pulled back. He reined in the two harbingers of destruction, waiting for the surrender. What he got in return was an orbital nuclear strike from the human fleet as the remaining populace was evacuated. It would be at least half a lifetime before the two gods had bled of enough radiation to show themselves to their followers again. The mirth bled off his face as he rose from the throne and headed into the adjacent summoning room. Athene, Odin, Ogma, I call you by your name. Buddha, Thoth, Laozi, I summon you to my presence. The circle in the middle of the floor lit up. If he had summoned a single god, it would have filled the entire circle, but with 6 summoned at one, they would share the space. The figures faded into existence, the ritual completed. Tell me, he was furious, why the humans nuked the planet. Why fight if you can leave? Buddha mused. Athene looked at the former human and scoffed. You introduced a weapon they did not recognize. Gods. They must have tested to see if they could be destroyed. Ogma and Odin nodded in agreement. Lousy, your perception. He was not going to believe that some primate descendants who just happened to be gifted with opposable thumbs would fight their own gods. Maybe you are asking the wrong deities, the ox-riding male suggested. I feel that Yahweh would have better insight. She was, after all, the one who had the strongest following. Thoth? I have joined your ranks. My end of the bargain has been fulfilled. Be gone, he bellowed and stared hatefully at the figures as they faded from view. They had offered no answer, none that held value. As he headed back into the throne room, he conscripted another 5 billion soldiers to join the gods on the battlefield. The humans would fall. Satisfied with his genius solution of solving the problem by throwing more bodies at it, he dumped himself on the throne and summoned his favorite 5 concubines. He needed a break from thinking. Fathering another generation was the right kind of break. The single figure that entered the throne room was not what he had in mind. It resembled a human female, seemingly naked, but the coloration suggested a garment woven from the fabric of existence itself, covering the entire body up to the neckline. The long flowing black hair suggested that there were soft curls, but his eyes would not allow him to focus on them. The female slowly walked across the floor towards the throne, ignoring everything in the room, including him. Who are you? Where are my breeders? How did you get in here? The woman stopped just short of his command table and looked at him. Her eyes resembled the soft glow of newborn stars. "You do not know me, because you have never met my likeness before." Her voice was soft, like running a gentle mist across the silky satin veil of comfort that envelops you just before you doze off to sleep. Every galaxy you have conquered has had numerous sentients in them, each with their own gods. This has led your scientists and priests to false conclusions. She offered a soft smile. He was reminded of his mother's smile when he was nursing. Your breeders are dead, as are the soldiers that guarded your person, along with everyone who has laid eyes on me. As for your last question, I walked. The audacity told him that she was divine, that along with her portrayal of herself, he had summoned enough gods in his time to know that their first appearance was one meant to install awe in the spectator. He scoffed, "Let it go, woman. Tell me your name so we can do business." Her smile did not fade. It remained as soft and caring as it had been when she had first revealed it to him. "You have nothing I want. As for my name, I have none. The humans have called me by many names and concepts, but they have never named me." "Then why are you here?" He did not have neither the time nor patience to deal with some rogue, unnamed god. "I am here, child, to warn you. Back off the humans, recall your fleets, and bring your converted gods with you. This will not end well if you don't." He ignored the underlying threat in her voice. "This ends like every encounter before it. I will be victorious, and this time I will add an entire galaxy to my claim with just one war." He laughed at her. It had been too good an opportunity when his scouts had found the humans, a single species of sentience, alone in an entire galaxy. The amount of resources and planets available for his people to propagate through. He would have the population to turn the gods of 1,000,000 species from that single swirling mess of stars. He waved a hand at the ceiling. On cue, his divine protector entered from a side door. A majestic white beard obfuscated his jays, and the loosely slung robe around his waist held itself in place with the pinned horn of a titan. In his left hand, a javelin of pure lightning complained audibly about being constrained. Zeus walked in, nonchalantly hurling the lightning at the woman's back. The bolt hit her square in the spine, where it solidified and clattered to the floor, harmlessly. The god-king froze in his stride. The newly drawn lightning javelin fizzled off to nothing as he closed his eyes, bowed his head, and kneeled. She had yet to acknowledge the existence of the traitor. "Your mistake," she spoke with a calm and patient tone, "was to assume that the gods created life. They didn't. Life is created by happenstance, and once life becomes self-aware, it seeks answers." She turned her head slightly and watched as Ra faded into view, next to Zeus. The eagle-headed god knelt down immediately, head bowed. The answers, her tone did not soothe the monarch anymore, were given by the gods life created. She looked him straight in the eyes. "You have not turned the fathers of humanity against them. You have merely occupied the attention of errant children who failed to learn from their elders that patience is a virtue and that power is an illusion." She turned and walked over to the two kneeling figureheads of their respective religion. "Ra, my dear," she said as she cupped the cheek of the god with her palm, a gentle caress. "Did you create man?" The god of life did not look up. He meekly mumbled a response. "No, man created me." She turned to face the king. "I can ask that question to every god in existence, and they will all give the same answer. You have nothing I want because I care not for prayers and temples. I have given life to every galaxy in existence, multiple seeds, to build a garden of harmony and existence. The gods report to me on the happenings in the worlds that birthed them. I kept the humans to myself, kept them isolated, alone in their galaxy, because I wanted to see what happened when life itself became gods. I created them, formed them through challenges and adversity. They do not seek divine redemption because the gods cannot save them. They know that the only way to survive when you are alone is by sheer will and fortitude." As the king realized who she was, he began frantically searching for a name on his infosphere. If he could name her, she could be summoned. Those summoned serve. "I ask you one final time, withdraw your fleets, or watch as the children of men burn your empire down." As he looked up from his screen, he found the starry visage that he had, mistakenly, thought was her eyes focused on him. She slowly revealed her true gaze to him, letting him realize that he was, in fact, staring creation in the face. She was unnamed because no one could fathom her existence. She had created existence itself. As she revealed the truth to him, his mind shattered, unable to comprehend the all-encompassing knowledge of everything. He had lived 1,000 lifetimes. She had lived them all. She had created humanity, not to pray or worship gods, but to become gods. They would destroy him, his kingdom, and then every god there was. She showed him the final battle, millions of lifetimes in the future. She had built a species of longevity. She had made them survivors. The gods they had made would fall, and in the end so would she. All that would be left: the children of men,